Humility is a funny thing. Once you think you've got it, you've lost it. Are you humble? You will realize that you cannot answer this question if you really are humble. And that is exactly what humility is. A humble person wears his or her humility lightly. A humble person wears his or her humility in confidence without any external show. The bigger a person is, the greater a person is, the more humble that person is. It is small, insignificant people who are proud, who try to show that they are more than they really are. If one is truly great, one doesn't need to show anything to anyone. And there are many qualities of humility. I would take 5 for our reflection this morning, because the texts of today focus on one point and one point alone, that is humility. In the first reading from what is known as the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, a lot of advice is given to the child about being humble. The father is exhorting his child to be humble because the father says, the greater you are, the more humble you should be, and you will be, because you know that you are great. In the gospel text of today, Jesus is invited to the meal in a person's home. And even as Jesus is invited and sits down to the place designated to him, he notices that others who are also invited are choosing places of honor, are choosing the best places, are choosing places where they will be seen, where they will be recognized, where they will be acknowledged. And that is why Jesus tells the host and those who are with him at table not to choose that place for a very practical reason. If one chooses the place not designated to one, it is likely that the host will come and ask the person who is sitting in that undesignated place to move to another place. And that person will be humbled without really being humble. That person, because he or she is proud, will be humiliated when asked to go to the lowest place, when asked to go to a place where he or she will not be noticed, not be recognized, not be acknowledged. And so therefore, what is humility? First, humility is guileless. Humility is without guile. Humility avoids any kind of comparison and considers no one as inferior or even as superior. Honestly, there is no such thing as a superiority complex, because if I have to prove to you that I am superior, it is because I really feel inferior. I feel lesser than you, and that is why I need to show you that I am better than you, that I am braver than you, that I am more than you. If there is humility within me, there is no guile, and therefore there is no comparison. A second quality of humility is self-confidence, self-assurance. A person who is humble knows exactly who or she is and therefore does not want to be someone else. A person is content with his or her personality and glories in that personality. Such a person is aware that he or she is unique and there is no one in the whole world like him or her. But this is also true, the person knows, of others, because every one of us is unique. Comparisons are odious. A humble person will never compare himself or herself with another. A third quality of humility is that the person is so self-assured that he or she realizes who she is, who he is, and therefore that person can be humble. Humility is not external. Humility does not show itself in external clothes, in external hairstyle, in external cosmetics. One of the reasons why cosmetic companies are running the way to the bank is because so many of us, unfortunately, regard the external as more important than what is inside. We want to color our hair black because we are afraid of getting old. We want to color our whole body because we do not accept the kind of persons that we are. We focus so much on the external that we forget what is inside the heart. The German mystic Meister Eckhart says very beautifully, you should bother less about the externals and think more about the being. Because if your heart were good, if your being were good, the external will shine. The external will be bright. And so a humble person focuses not on the external. Clothes do not make the person. A hairstyle does not make the person. Externals do not make the person. What makes the person is what comes from within, is what comes from the heart. Because that is where God dwells, that is where good resides, and that is where the real person is. Externals last only for a few years. Externals last only for a few decades. However, the heart remains fresh, new, forever. And that is why a humble person knows that he or she does not need to dress up to please someone else. The humble person dresses up in clothes that are comfortable for him or her rather than to impress. Because humility, the fourth point, does not need to create an impression. I need to create an impression only in order to be acknowledged, only in order to be recognized, only in order to be noticed, that people will say, see how well he dresses, see how well he talks, see how well groomed he is, see how his hair is in place. But that does not last. That is temporary, that is passing, that is impermanent. What is really required and what is permanent is the kind of person that I am within. And finally, humility expects nothing in return. Humility does not expect acknowledgement. Humility does not expect recognition. Humility does not expect to be noticed. And that is why finally, in the instructions which Jesus gives, he tells those who are at table with him that when they invite people for a meal, when they invite people to their homes, they must not merely invite those who can do them a favor and invite them in return. It is so easy to invite friends and relatives in the hope that I will be invited to their homes as well. It is so easy to do favors for people who can return those favors to me. But to perform an action, to do a deed with no expectation whatever, and especially for those who cannot repay me, is not easy. But is easy for a humble person. Because the humble person is self-assured, the humble person is self-confident, the humble person is self-possessed, the humble person needs no acknowledgement. And so, let us take to heart this message of both Sirach and the message of Jesus. Humility, humility, humility. The opposite of humility is pride. A proud person is a small person. A proud person is not self-assured, is not self-confident. A proud person lacks the heart and only focuses on the external. The proud person knows that he or she cannot let that pride last. The proud person knows that if he or she is not recognized, then he or she is failing. He or she is not acknowledged. And therefore, what is required is this gift which we ask from the Lord, the gift which the Lord himself had. He was able to speak so eloquently. He was able to heal all those who came to him. He was able to reach out to everyone. But the Lord had this quality about him, the quality of humility. The quality of humility says to us that first, we don't need to compare with anyone. That second, we are self-assured and we are self-confident. The third, we will not focus merely on the externals, and that we will expect nothing in return for the love that we give. The true love that we express is a love that has to be unconditional. Paul gives us a very beautiful definition of love in his first letter to the Corinthians in chapter 13, verses 1 to 9. In those verses he says, love keeps no record of wrongs. And I add, love keeps no record of rights either. Love keeps no record whatever. And that is how God loves. And that is how we are expected to love. A humble person can love in that manner because the humble person expects nothing in return. When was the last time you performed an action with no expectation whatever? Will you attempt to perform such an action today? When was the last time you focused only on the externals and forgot about the heart? Will you focus more on your heart than on your externals today? When was the last time you invited people only with the expectation that you will be invited in return? Will you invite someone who cannot repay the favor? When was the last time you compared yourself with another and felt either inferior or superior? Will you stop all comparisons today? Humility is a funny thing. Once you think you've got it, you've lost it. Are you humble?